Welcome to INSZN's College Football Show. We have another player diagnosis for y'all. We are talking Julian Sayin of the Ohio State Buckeyes. He has been one of the best quarterbacks of the in all of the nation, in the country. And Ohio State, obviously, last night the College Football Playoff Ranking Committee came out. They're number one, excuse me, and right ahead of number 2 Indiana. And they have a few big games coming up, really one that everyone circles, the game, Michigan against Ohio State. So let's go right into it, talk Julian Sayin, Heisman hopeful, probably one of the best, if not the best quarterback so far this year.
Yeah, I think from the eye test, you can agree that Julian Sayin's one of the best quarterbacks this year. We've all seen a couple Ohio State games this year probably, and you watch him on the field, he's able to make the plays. If you're from just a looks perspective, great quarterback. The analytics back that up to the highest degree. He's number 1 on in-season passing, number 1 on total offense, number 1 on his deep pass ability, number 1 on blitz pass ability. And then top, 5 percentile in basically every other category. He's a true pro-style quarterback. He's highly effective on his passes, highly accurate on his passing abilities. If we look at his last 2 games, Wisconsin and Penn State, 90% accuracy rating. And when I say accuracy, it doesn't necessarily mean completion rate. Accuracy is looking at is the ball thrown to a receiver that should have been caught and should not have been turned over. So whether the receiver caught it or not is kind of irrelevant to this metric. But that's what I look at when I'm saying, hey, I want to just distill down on a quarterback perspective. Are they good at passing the ball? Accuracy is the main metric I look at. And throughout this season, there's one kind of outlier game against Illinois that he had, 73% accuracy rate. But across the board, everything else, he's been absolutely phenomenal. He's
73% is not something to kind of turn away from. That's something that most college quarterbacks, most college fan bases would love to see in their quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. He's obviously top percentile. He's number 1.
Exactly, and kind of I know a lot of I'm on X all the time. I see people say, yeah, well, if you had Carnell Tate, if you had Jeremiah Smith as your top 2 receivers, I could be a good quarterback. What I do want to point out, though, is that Ohio State, although they are a phenomenal team, from top to bottom, pass blocking ability is in the lower percentile.
Yeah,
they're right now on in-season, they're a D in pass blocking ability, and most of the time, when you're not able to protect your quarterback in pass blocking situations, we see a quarterback struggle, and Julian Sayin has not. In fact, there's some throws that I watch and I don't know how he makes those throws.
Yeah,
he's been phenomenal all year, and the receivers definitely help.
Sure.
But I think you could put him on almost any team and he would be just as good. Just looking at that.
I agree. All right, what do you want to look at? What would kind of help support our point that we think analytically he's the best quarterback this year?
Let's look at 2 kind of Heisman hopefuls. I know sure. I kind of started the video talking about number 1 and 2. Let's go over to Mendoza at Indiana and let's kind of compare them.
All right, so I'm going to take away just the non-game by game stuff. Let's look at completion percentage, accuracy percentage, time to throw, turnover worthy play. Across the board, Julian Sayin is a more complete quarterback. Accuracy rating 7% higher, completion rate 9% higher. His time to throw is a little bit longer. That doesn't necessarily mean one thing or the other. Typically, when we see a time to throw between 2.5 seconds to 2.7 seconds, that's a little bit more optimal. 2.8 seconds is not crazy. Mendoza's 2.58 seconds there. Turnover worthy plays, we can kind of chalk that up to pretty similar, 1.3% versus 1.5%. Big time plays is kind of where you're seeing the deviation. 5.3% of all Julian Sayin's plays result in 20-plus yard gains. And I think that's a large takeaway from this season of them being able to just get chunk plays and chunk plays that will, either set up the run game or allow them to get in scoring position quickly. I think that's one of the main, things I'm looking at. And then QBR, he's about 7 to 8 points higher than Mendoza. Look, I think these are two really good quarterbacks. I think they're both very complete in their abilities. But I think that Sayin just has the edge so far this year. And I think a big part of that is just his high accuracy. We can take a look at grades as well. Kind of a similar story. Mendoza does have the ground game ability, but across the board, Sayin, they're either equivalent or Sayin's just a touch better, especially looking at medium and deep pass grades. But I mean, take that as you will. I think those are two very good quarterbacks. Whatever you think about the receivers that they have or their offensive lines and what's actually equating to one versus the other, it's up in the air. But from an analytical perspective, I think that Sayin has the edge this year.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I wanted to point out when you were talking about big time play percentage, that could be the reason that time to throw is, a little slightly high at 2.8, because he is able to read the defense and see that they're giving him opportunities to take big shots.
Yeah.
And not that this has happened. I mean, but if I had Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate on the outside, I would be throwing the ball as deep as much as possible.
A really good point. The best deep passer in the NCAA according to INSZN this year. So I agree with that.
Yeah. So I think if I had to vote right now for the Heisman, Julian Sayin probably would have the edge over Mendoza or anyone else that really could be out there. So I'm excited to see how he ends the year. They're at Purdue this weekend. And kind of a sneaky UCLA team. Yeah. Although they're not really sneaking up on anyone else. Rutgers, and then they are at the Big House for the game against Michigan. That's going to be – Michigan is in the college football playoff rankings, so that's going to be a big-time game. Yep. Playoff implications, Big Ten Conference championship game implications, and big stage. So, if Heisman voters haven't voted by then, which they shouldn't, in my opinion, they shouldn't be. But if they haven't voted by then that could be the game where we're getting a Heisman moment out of Julian Sayin.
I agree. Because I think they're going to go 3-0 over the next 3 games. And I don't think there's much of a debate over that. I think this Purdue game is going to be pretty easy. UCLA, you saw them, how they performed against Indiana last week. So I think that, I love UCLA, but I think that when they're playing really high caliber teams like Ohio State and Indiana, it's going to be a little bit of a different story. So I think they roll into that Michigan game undefeated. It will be a Heisman moment for Julian Sayin if he's able to have the games that he's had this year, highly consistent, highly accurate, highly decisive, able to utilize that deep threat as well. I think it should be a super fun game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very excited for that. Last thing I wanted to point out about Julian Sayin, obviously Ohio State has one of the best defenses overall in college football. A lot of that, not too much of that, but a good amount of that has to do with the fact that Ohio State offensively does not turn the ball over. Julian Sayin, like you said, is decisive. He makes good decisions, and because of that, they're rarely, if ever, putting the defense in bad spots, so that the defense is then able to go ahead and kind of watch the game and stop the opposing offense. And I'm looking right now: coverage defense A+, pass rush defense A, run defense A-. I mean, a solid defense, but they're also being put in really good spots. They're not being put in negative territory, kind of to protect their own end zone or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that the one ironic thing I wanted to point out is that Julian Sayin's 3 interceptions, 2 came against the Ohio Bobcats and 1 came against Grambling early on in the season. And nothing to diminish those teams' defense, but he's been, highly protective of the ball in Big Ten play this year, which I think is just kind of one of the more ironic points of Julian Sayin is in the big games, he performs, he makes smart plays, he has a high throwing IQ. And so I think that, just roll that into the rest of the season, I would be surprised if anything changes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is interesting that kind of the two of their non-conference games one against an in-state opponent in Ohio, the other against Grambling, are the 2 games that he has interceptions in. And then, some big games, Illinois, Minnesota, who's sneaky good, 4-2 in the conference, 6-3 overall. All those games he's been able to put up crazy numbers, protect the ball, and make it easy for the defense, to get the ball back into the offense's hands. So this has been INSZN's College Football Show, player diagnosis for Julian Sayin. If you're an Ohio State fan or just a college football fan in general, please comment, tell us what we need to do better, what we're doing well. We're getting better at this as the more we do it. So we're excited that y'all are here and watching. Follow, like, subscribe, check us out on X and Instagram, and then go to INSZN.co or INSZN.com, INSZNcollegefootball.com, CFB.com, and check us out. We look forward to hearing from y'all soon, and we will see you next week. Thank you.